I'd say I had no volume going. This here suit my town. I just don't know why there's so few people on the channel, that's all. Maybe it's because she's on X, Twitter, TikTok, and everything else. What are you talking about? Hold on, bro. Don't start all that. We're lying here. I don't know what I'm really doing, you know. I'm just fucking, ain't nothing like it used to be. I mean, all my equipment's gone. I'm just playing. You know, I'd be better off to pay attention to what's going on and doing this, but I can't have no volume over here. It'll be like it is. I need captions. I don't have no volume. Why y'all never give me... last time you had options. Oh, this is Facebook. But I'm reading the chat here. What's going on? Humphrey, we get antenna signals from Trump. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess we all do, right? That's why they could, Wikipedia classified Trump. So what did they call it? Anyway, it's on Wikipedia. New classification today. Anyway, Supermom Official cover this in its entirety. She's got volume. Finally, you're down. Supermom, you there? 10-4. She put her hat in front of it. 10-4. 10-4. It was probably the whole excursion. Hey, I'm gonna turn the national anthem on, all right?
It's not too loud, man.
Okay.
I'm leaving like right now, too.
Can't have volume here. I got headphones on for the, I got YouTube running here, Facebook on the other phone. Rock on.
Oh, you said both? No, okay, I'll check. I'll check. You did, I'm sorry. I know you know you. Okay, I'll check. You're telling me it's fine, but it's a lot of good then. I'll check. Listen, I got my wheels on. Okay. If it's not good, I'll reach out to you now. I'll tell you it's not good, yeah. You getting ready? I'm going.
Oh,
Huh?
I'm gonna stay with Soup Mama here.
Huh?
I know I should go, but are you gonna meet a girl?
No, this is girl that probably fucking catfishing, but been communicating that. You don't get on me close today, right? No gloves today, right?
Say hello to America.
What?
Say hello to America.
Hi.
Great one.
Where's the key?
Kendall Ludd.
Lion!
Kendall Ludd,
Dude, where's his key?
officially running for South Carolina State Senator, wants to bring the Republican Party back into power right away. Right away.
Can you look in here for the key?
Huh?
Can you look in here for the key?
It's right here.
You don't put it, keep that. That's her shit. We'll move it later.
Alright. Rock and roll, rock and roll. makes a lot of sense to me now. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Now this makes sense to me.
Alright guys, we are moving to our seat. We got a seat saved for. Guys, we are on the move. We're going to the exact. So we're gonna
President Trump is getting full police, law enforcement, and sheriff's services. And you know what, folks, let's hear it for our great son, what's wrong? Thank you, Mr. His ancestors perhaps even worse than just start time. She leaves behind a broken border, broken economy, broken world.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products. It's Amazon's other company, Audible. Audible pays me,
Okay, for standing up for my political beliefs against an illegitimate committee in the House that did not have a ranking member and did not have minority counsel. I went to a federal prison for 4 months. Now, Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland thought they were going to do two things. Number one, they were going to shut down the war room and not have that as a voice for the grassroots movement of MAGA in this country. Number two, break me. Well, I think you can see today, I'm far from broken. I've been empowered by my 4 months at Danbury Federal Prison. Why was it empowered? Because I was able to listen, to observe, and to learn from working class minorities, young African American men and Hispanic men, and yes, Puerto Rican men, about what their lives are and what the queen of mass incarcerations, which is what they believe that Kamala Harris is. She refuses, and she has refused, as Gorsuch, to commence any mass deportations of illegal
45 minutes.
migrant criminals in this country. And today, President Trump, with the aid of moms, actually had to say, we need to set up a form of restitution to reimburse these folks. Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, and Gorsuch has refused to do that and continue on the mass incarcerations. Now, President Trump, and quite frankly, with the visionary leadership at the time of Jared Kushner, President Trump came with the most significant prison reform bill ever created, the First Step Act. And today, 6 years after, and 4 years into the Biden regime, of which Biden in 2020 promised and committed to dramatically decrease the number of incarcerations in federal prisons, and nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. You know, this is criminal negligence by the highest, at the highest levels of BOP, Bureau of Prisons, and the Justice Department. You have particularly minorities, African Americans, and Hispanic men and their families being broken, rotting in federal prisons, when the First Step Act is very clear of what's supposed to happen, and all they do is get spun and spun and spun. The system is broken. Bureau of Prisons is broken. This is not about Danbury, not about the individual. There are many good individuals working at Danbury Federal Prison. The system of the BOP, the system of the Justice Department is broken. They have weaponized the Justice Department against a political movement, a conservative grassroots movement that's had President Trump's back, and from the dark days of February, March, and April of 2021 is on the cusp of the biggest political comeback in the history of this nation, led by grassroots people, everyday Americans, including, as we know now from the polling, and the reason I said we're on the cusp of a massive victory, she is failing to connect with minority men, Hispanic and African American men. Now, why is that? They understand what the stand is. They understand that this administration purposely let in millions of illegal alien migrants, illegal aliens, to drive down labor costs. The Federal Reserve said it from the very beginning, we're going to drive down labor inflation by getting more unskilled workers here and putting pressure on the lowest skilled sector we have. And they were successful, and they brag about being successful. The minority community understands that. They understand the scam and the con of what Kamala Harris has done. In addition, she has failed to do, for political reasons, the reason the First Step Act is not implemented among minorities is because Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland and Joe Biden in the White House and Nancy Pelosi understand it to be a massive political win for President Trump. And that's why they're failing to do it. They thought they would shut down the war room and take our power away. The show is bigger and more powerful than it's ever been. And please, it's not a podcast. We take the live streaming television show every day and the radio show, and we turn it into a podcast. So, my brothers and sisters at CNN, when you say the podcast number is off slightly, right? It has been, we were the largest podcast, but we're streaming, we stream on television, and we play on radio and online. And Nancy Pelosi thought a federal prison was going to break me. Well, it empowered me. It empowered me. I am more empowered today, more focused today, sharper today, in better shape today than I've ever been in my entire life. So Nancy Pelosi, suck on that. The desperation of Kamala Harris and in her campaign is obvious. They went from the politics of joy, and we were the first ones to call it, to darkness and night falls on America, and they pivoted hard. You know why? Her incoherent, explanation for what the politics of joy is befuddled everybody. So she had to go back to the same playbook. Trump's a fascist. His followers are not deplorables, they're fascists. That they're a danger to the country. Well, you know who doesn't buy this? Working class people don't buy it. And particularly African American and Hispanic men do not buy it. I had a great opportunity at Danbury, and I want to thank the Education Department of Danbury Correctional Institution for allowing me to teach, yes, civics and government. I had, I think, close to 100 students in 3 different classes. The majority, particularly the later classes, were minority men, African American and Hispanic. Lots of Puerto Ricans, lots of Dominican, folks in the Dominican Republic. And if you had a chance to read Vanity Fair, the cover story on our populist nationalist beliefs, you can see that it talks about economics. And it talks about the way the system works, the financial system in this country, how it's inextricably linked to the political system. And you can't understand what's going on until you understand how the economy, how the Federal Reserve, how deficits, how they play into the politics of the day. That much that you see on television is just professional wrestling when it comes to politics, and it's not the thing itself. And I can report to you that these young men, most of whom are nonviolent drug offenders, that have, quite frankly, a lot of years in prison. These people came to this with a new awakening, and that is the awakening the American people are going through. The system is not only broken, the system is rigged against the working class of this nation. And I saw at Danbury that we're going to move past the politics of race with an intermediate stop in the politics of gender, which is being forced on everybody right now. We're going to get to what is important, and that's the politics of money. And once we get to the politics of money, there's going to be some fundamental changes in this country. I want to thank you folks for coming. I'm far from broken, and I appreciate you guys attending. And I will tell you, if President Trump's grassroots forces combine as we can combine right now, you're going to see unbelievable numbers next Tuesday. However, the Democrats are not going to give up. They just hired Mark Elias. And you only hire Mark Elias, who I think is the toughest election lawyer in the country. You only hire Mark Elias when you want to go to the mattresses. They understand they can't do this at the ballot box. We're going to have a reprise of 2020, where they're going to try to do everything humanly possible to nullify Trump's election and delegitimize his second term. And I can tell you right now that the working class people in this country, the middle class people in this country that support Donald John Trump are not going to let that happen. I'll take some questions. I can tell you right now that the working class people in this country, the middle class people in this country that support Donald John Trump are not going to let that happen. I'll take some questions. Tim Miller. Do you have the pukas on today, or we have the pearls? Pukas and pearls, no pukas and pearls? This is Tim Miller, one of my favorite guys from MSNBC, the poll works. Used to be the spokesman for the Republican. When I met Tim as a younger man, he was the spokesman for the RNC. The old RNC, the establishment RNC, the RNC of Mitt Romney, not the RNC of Donald Trump. Go ahead, Tim. Question?
You said there's not to continue for November 5th to Liberation Day.
Yes.
January 6th being a key part of that.
Yes. No, Jamie Raskin, I think, Tim, what you ought to focus on is Jamie Raskin. Jamie Raskin saying right now, if they take the House by one seat, that they will go back to their committee report and they will say President Trump's an insurrectionist, that Bannon went to prison, Navarro went to prison, President Trump's been indicted, and they will sit there and go, hey, the Supreme Court may have issued a 9-0 opinion about him being on the ballot, sitting as president. This is what they're thinking up right now. Nancy Pelosi gave an interview to Rolling Stone magazine. She said her number one priority is to make sure that Donald Trump is not only not elected or re-elected president of the United States, but he never sets foot in the White House. Nancy Pelosi and Jamie Raskin right now are thinking about, and they're very open about it, of not certifying a Trump victory on November 5th. And that's not me saying, that's Jamie Raskin saying.
On the Harris victory, what are your plans for after November 5th with Kamala Harris victory?
We're going to make sure that Kamala Harris doesn't win on November 5th. We're highly confident. We've seen the polls, we've seen the numbers coming in. We're going to look. We believe in the American system of democracy. We believe that, and the reason we like democracy, we're winning, right? And we're going to win on November 5th. Listen, but you do agree with me on Jamie Raskin, that Jamie Raskin's already said they're not going to certify President Trump?
I don't agree with that. I think one of the teaching civics, you're out of prison, over reforms, looking back on the last January 6th, and the fact that you incited a mob.
That would be, hang on. If you look at what we said, is that as the states requested, 7 states requested, never got to, a full review. This is because Vice President Pence didn't handle it correctly. This is because Vice President Pence did not handle it correctly. No, absolutely no change. For the simple reason is that we should have had a review as requested by the states for all 7 states at that time. Tim, thank you very much.
One question at a time.
But Tim, if you want to continue the speeches, it's good television. I don't want to talk about personal conversations, but we've had a chat.
You talked with former President Trump this morning.
We've had a chat.
And you talked about election economics.
I don't want to discuss what we're talking about, but by the way, he watches the show. He saw the show this morning. The show this morning didn't talk about my time in prison. What it talked about was 2 things. Number one, a massive grassroots effort that's underway, that has to culminate on November 5th, particularly in places like Pennsylvania. It looks like max 15% of Republicans will have voted on the mail-in ballot, early voting. Before then, we have to deliver 85% of the people to the polls next Tuesday. He understands that we're the focus and back of people like the Elon Musk of the world, and the money he's putting in for his effort, and Charlie Kirk and other independent groups out there that are putting in, that we're driving and lightening the grassroots movement of the Trump MAGA movement to show up next week. That's number one. And number two, we had Bill McGinley and Mike Davis and others on to talk about the election integrity, the efforts that they're making, and quite frankly, places like Pennsylvania, that looks like the election administration is a little bit of a dumpster fire right now.
4 years ago, you urged then President Trump to declare victory on election night. We knew all well that there was going to be a chance that he was not
No,
going to
hang on.
ballots at the end of the country.
Hang on.
You did exactly that. You urged him to do this.
Hang on a second. When I said that 4 years ago, it was, why did I say that? Because a guy named Mark Elias came up with a report that 2 individuals, Bill McGinley and Raheem Kassam, helped deconstruct in July of 2020, and he walked through how the Democratic Party was going to steal the election with illegitimate mail-in ballots. He said, I totally, by the way, we can argue, we can adjudicate that, hang on, we can argue that President Trump came up at 2:30 in the morning and talked, he should have done it at 11 o'clock at night in 2020, okay? I'm urging President Trump, if the votes come in like it looks like they're going to come in, he should step up and inform the American citizens of exactly what's going on and not keep people in the dark like was done in 2020. So President Trump should step up and walk people through state by state of where these leads are and how these leads came about. We're not prepared to have in the dark of night all the problems that happened last time. Okay? The 2020 election was stolen. Okay, I will never back off that. I didn't want that. What I wanted was I wanted the will of the American people at the ballot box to be effectuated. I want the will of the American people at the ballot box to be effectuated. That's what I want. Yes, sir.
I'm wondering when's the next insurrection, and can we storm the Burger King after this? Like, can we do that? Doesn't he look great now? We were in Canterbury the first month together. He looks great. You don't remember me with the lifting weights and stuff in the weight room? When's the next insurrection? How are we gonna do this and stuff, man? I'm living, I'm having a good time. It looks like Yoda with days right now. Ronnie Rhodes, no political violence, people. This
Yes,
place
sir.
smells like
Yes,
lava.
sir. Yes, sir.
Can you make money by mailing people money? Sounds weird, right? Well, my students and I have delivered hundreds of millions of dollars to thousands of people while earning more than a full-time income in the process. Let me explain. One of the many ways your local government earns revenue is through mandated property taxes. And unfortunately, not every property owner is able to pay. For a variety of reasons, thousands of property owners default on their taxes every day. So what happens if they can't pay their real estate taxes? The local government comes in and auctions the property to the public right at the county.
Swear to God, I'm not selling anything.
Elon Musk, as you know, Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was a Democrat. Elon Musk was a very progressive Democrat. They've all become awakened by the MAGA movement. Today, I think he's one of the strongest supporters of the MAGA movement. He's gone through a awakening that I think very few have come. I totally disagree with many of his positions, particularly about the Chinese Communist Party and others. But as an American, he has done, I think, something very smart. And that is put money in back of grassroots organizations and people to do something simple. And that's to hang on, and that's to get out the vote here in the 2024 election. No, what I said is he's gone through a great awakening, right? And I think if you talk to him, he has gone through a great awakening. And I think part of that awakening is understand the power of the MAGA movement and the power of grassroots America. Thanks. Yes, sir. Yeah. So I'll repeat the question so people can hear it. So this is a question about Eric Adams and about, he thinks about Trump's, I have no earthly idea about Eric. Well, not about, I don't see what Eric Adams has been charged with, but I think it's fine, I have no earthly idea about that. And all I know is President Trump thinks that New York City, this metropolitan area, is in deep trouble, right? Rising crime, the streets are filthy. I think President Trump has not been a supporter of things doing with Eric Adams, Mayor Adams' administration. So I don't know. You should ask President Trump that. Yes, sir.
What are you going to do with that? You got 6 days around drop down. You got 6 days between now and the election, and then some period afterwards. What are you going to do in terms of besides?
Well, there's a lot of different options. I'm of a strong belief right now, this is New York Magazine asking what myself and Warren's going to do. Obviously, with 7 days or 6 days left, you have to have a convergence of the get out the vote effort. I am not a huge believer in our ability to actually participate in rallies or do rallies, because right now I think President Trump does that great, and he has people along that are going to do rallies in the different states. Our focus is one thing, to make sure that we get as many American citizens either early voting while they can, or to the polls next Tuesday. And so our efforts on how to scale that effort, like we did today on the show, and other efforts behind the scenes. So our thing is to make sure that we're there to scale the vote, get the vote operations, and also on the election integrity. Today we had Bill McGinley, one of the senior lawyers on there, and he's still calling for volunteers. I think there's been 200,000 election integrity volunteers. We need to get people in the counting rooms. We need to get people around the tables to do ballot curing. Okay, so there's still need for that, so we're gonna call for that. So our efforts are on the election integrity efforts, to where we can be supportive, and then get out the vote. Yes, sir.
Exactly who's the main from
Point how to handle it. Who believes in political violence? That's a loaded question. Of course people don't believe in political violence. I was just a political prisoner of a regime that put somebody in prison for what has been a civil charge at the history of the country. I think, I've been told I'm the only misdemeanor that's ever been at Danbury prison. I think I'm the only misdemeanor. They told me when I was on trial in federal court in DC that I'm the first misdemeanor at a federal level. You know, CNN reported that wrong that day. I'm not guilty of a felony. That was a misdemeanor. So, listen, we have to go through this election. And whoever wins the election, wins the election. Okay? I think we can show we're pretty powerful in opposition. Right? So if whoever wins, wins. But I can tell you right now, it's not Trump that's hiring Mark Elias. It's not Trump going to the mattresses about election integrity right now. It is Kamala Harris's campaign. And why is she doing that? Because the politics of joy was an epic fail. Now, why was it an epic fail? Because she couldn't take the narrative and actually put together a coherent set of policies that people can understand. And so she's pivoted. She's pivoted worse than Hillary Clinton. She doesn't call people deplorable, she calls them fascist. This rhetoric is dangerous. It's dangerous, and all they're doing is ratcheting it up. And you're going to see the working class people in this country, the middle class people in this country, that are in back of the greatest political comeback in American political history, are going to say, whoever wins this election, wins this election. Yes, sir.
My name is Bill Fox, I'm with the American First Warehouse Bar, Ribbon on Divorce. 1,392 days that Vincent Cassidy was shot, murdered at the Capitol. 820 days, Mickey Ripple, the vote after sit outside the blue line, that's 50.
Can we get a question?
Bless you,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, sir.
What can we tell them now, we're going to put you in jail 340 days. What can we tell them to stop?
Here's what I think. If you look down the range for a second of President Trump's second term, that commences on January 20th. Look at what's going to happen. Number one, the debt ceiling. We hit the debt ceiling almost immediately. Number two, you have the expiration of President Trump's tax cuts. Number three, the government runs out of money December 20th. It looks like he's not going to be in omnibus. President Trump has to deal with a massive fiscal crisis, okay, economic and fiscal crisis. In addition, you need to start to do what Kamala Harris failed to do. That's the reason that African American men and Hispanic men are not voting for her and staying away, is that you have to begin the mass deportations of illegal alien criminals. That is in the first couple of weeks of the second term. There are many things that have to happen, and many investigations that should take place under the proper structure, apparatuses, and to be adjudicated. And that's going to take time. So I think it's not helpful to tell people this is all going to be done immediately. You have the House, you have the Judiciary Committee, you have the Inspector General's report that hasn't been released in the Attorney General's office. They also, I think, ought to have another J6 committee, just like they had before, but this time, the Democrats should have a ranking member and they should have minority counsel. So all documents go to the minority counsel, all witnesses go to the minority counsel, people are cross-examined, and we do it in the right way. But I don't think that that's going to happen right in the box because we have such huge financial, well, the reality is we have huge financial and sovereignty issues about what's happened to the borders of this country and what's happening to internally in this country. This is why Hispanics are almost at 50-50 with President Trump. This is why African American men and Hispanic men are not voting for the politics of joy. They see their lives right now are not about the politics of joy. They're about a brutal reality in this country. So I think we have to be very upfront with people of what's facing us and what President Trump and his administration are facing. And to the degree that we get to those investigations, which we will, it has to be done over time, it has to be done properly, and it has to be done so that the American people see that this was not partisan, that this is not to send Peter Navarro to prison, or not to indict President Trump or former president 92 times. okay? Or not to send a guy like Steve Bannon who disagrees with you politically to prison. It has to be done in the right way. Yes, ma'am.
Why are doctors using this weird lamp to eliminate mold from their clinics?
And in 15 minutes, you know what's happening? This amazing week.
I don't have nothing for sale.
Okay. Okay. Can I take the first part of your question first, which is, why was I released 7 days before? I think the math works out. If you take 120 days from July 1st till today, that's what my sentence was. Remember, the Bureau of Prisons said last week, the Bureau of Prison admitted I was eligible for part of the First Step Act. I should have been out on September 19th, according to the law of the First Step Act. Now, I'm just there on a misdemeanor for 4 months. You have individuals that have been there that are rotting years after their release date, that today don't know the release date for their families. This is destroying families. The First Step Act is not an executive order. The First Step Act is not just some sort of concept. It is a law. And the Justice Department and the Bureau of Prisons are, by criminal negligence, not implementing that law. And they're not implementing that law for one reason. Because to implement it the way it's supposed to be implemented is a massive political victory for President Trump, who's the only individual in this country that stepped up and had true prison reform. And this is one of the reasons that African American families and Hispanic families think so highly of him. And this is one of the reasons that the queen of mass incarcerations, which is Kamala Harris, is not. Let's talk about the Puerto Rican situation. Why is President Trump, why is Florida no longer a battleground state? One of the reasons and significant reasons is the Puerto Rican support of President Trump and his policies. The Puerto Rican people in this country, American citizens, support President Trump and support his policies. Okay? So that some influencer or comedian says something, is it inappropriate? It's definitely inappropriate. Is that the policies of Donald Trump? Absolutely not. If you look at 218 and 219, why is he resonating with Hispanic families over 50-50? Why with African American men? Because the economic policies of President Trump had blue-collar workers getting higher increases than white-collar workers, non-college graduates getting higher wage increases than college graduates in 218 and 219, with almost zero interest rates and almost zero inflation. Okay, that made more money in their pocket. They understand the economic times were better then. This is one of the reasons that the politics of Joy didn't work. And when she pivoted to this dark night in America, it's not working either. They support President Trump, and he's going to get historic numbers. Now, what the comedian said and influencer said is clearly inappropriate. Okay, but that's not President Trump's policies. President Trump is bringing working class people together. And I can tell you what I saw at Danbury. We're going to move past race. And we're going to get the discussion about money in this country. And who the elites are in this country. And who controls this country. Okay? And that is when you're going to see a broad-based, even broader base today, populist movement. But thank you. Yes, yes. Who? Hey, Jen, yes. Like I said, my focus is on victory next Tuesday at the biggest number possible, because folks don't think it ends on Tuesday. You don't hire Mark Elias to go to the mattresses if you think it's going to end on Tuesday. This is going to take a while to sort through. Okay, you can see by the election administration problems in Pennsylvania. You see what they're talking about in Maricopa County already, about how long it's going to take to count the votes, right? This is going to go on. So it's most important for President Trump and his followers to make sure that we put up the maximum number possible. And one of the things I don't like, even hearing is people talking about roles in the administration, or people talking about, let's go try to win the popular vote, or people talking about, we're overconfident. There's a lot of confidence. We should run now like we're 20 points behind and run hard. And that's all my focus is. The way that we can scale that on the war room is what I do. Like I said, President Trump's going to do the rallies. His rallies are spectacular. To me, it's walking precincts, it's working phone banks, it's going door to door, it's sending text messages. Yes, ma'am. I don't want to talk about that, but President Trump, look, back in 2021, when some of the Republican establishment abandoned President Trump, the MAGA movement started to actually get about organization, the precinct strategy, other things like that, that become organizing principles for him. Right now, the thing that is most important for President Trump and his movement is to have his followers come together in an organized effort, right, to get out as many votes as absolutely possible. And that's the focus in the final 6 days. Remember, normally Thursday before the Tuesday election is when, you get news stories, get everything. So we have to have people motivated. We have to have people going door to door. All this polling and people talking about, oh, Trump always polls 3 points less, that's all theoretical. What we know is that what happens next Tuesday is fact. And the only thing that matters is votes that can be certified from American citizens. And that's what we're focusing on. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to consider
Well, first, as a local person, no. It's so from Tim Miller's own lips, a high degree of citizen. No, because Kamala Harris, the Biden regime, Merrick Garland, Nancy Pelosi weaponized the justice system in this country against their political opponents. And so, if that continues on, right, you may see that. If that continues on, but like I said, I am proud that I went as a political prisoner to Danbury prison. I served my country on a Navy destroyer in my 20s, and I served my country in a federal prison in my 70s. If you're not prepared to be thrown in prison by this weaponized Justice Department, then you're not prepared to stand up and fight for your country. And I will never back down from that. So thank you, Tim. Yes, ma'am. The Wall Street Journal. A message for Europe is that, President Trump's been a great friend of NATO to make sure the NATO alliance is actually funded by countries in Europe. I would say that the populist nationalist movement over there that's on the march, is on the rise, should look at what's happening in the United States of America, particularly against the elites in this country, and how with very little money, every day we're building. Like I said, we're going to move past race here. You're going to see historic numbers, I think, of African American and Hispanic men that do not vote for a Democratic candidate. So we can move past these things that held us back in the past and get to the sunlit uplands of talking about power and control and money. Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure Europeans are so afraid, but that European elites are so afraid. There's a big difference. Number one, the European elites, the elites and the wealthy in Europe have not paid their fair share. Right? Listen, our defense budget is almost $1 trillion a year. A lot of that goes into NATO and supporting allies throughout the world. That we need our allies to pitch in, particularly the wealthy allies in Europe. Europe does not carry its weight on its defense. And if Europeans are so concerned about Putin and KGB and the Russians, they're going to have to step up to the plate and be even a bigger part. President Trump and Stoltenberg said this, there wouldn't be a NATO today if it was not for President Trump and what President Trump did in assisting NATO to actually start to pay more of its fair share. The European elites, of course they hate Trump because they understand President Trump is a populist nationalist. They understand about what he's talking about is trade. They understand what he's talking about terrorists. They understand he puts American citizens first and he puts American citizens' economic benefit first. So if I was an elite in Europe, yeah, I would be quite concerned about Donald Trump because, number one, it's going to inspire populist movements throughout Europe to actually get off the dime and start winning elections and winning them big. Yes, sir.
Can you clarify what you're talking about, Colin? Didn't you encourage Mr. Trump to say on election night that the states are all projected?
When I say the states are all projected, what it does make this about the states projected? President Trump, to me, hang on, should go before the American people. Go before the American people, and I thought he should do it last year in 2020 at 11 o'clock at night, not at 2:30 in the morning, and explain to American people where the voting is, right? Where the voting is and what's to come, what is still outstanding. The American people, quite frankly, were quite confused in 2020. They don't need to be confused today. And I think you're going to see some big numbers from President Trump. We've already know that, though, that Pennsylvania and Maricopa County and others are saying it could take a while. He needs to explain to the American people early on exactly where we are in the voting.
So it seems like you're suggesting that Americans should be ready for this potentially big if he gets to know who's the winner.
I don't say that. I believe that Jocelyn Benson in Michigan has said it's going to take a couple of days for Michigan. I believe the people in Maricopa County just said the other day it could take them 4, 5, or 6 days to figure things out. Not just
4 years ago, actually,
well, hang on. Well, we have made significant changes, and mail-in ballots are not what they were. He told us, Mark Elias told us, that on election night, we were going to call it the red mirage. But just wait 2 weeks. When all votes are counted, he didn't say all legitimate votes. He didn't say all certifiable votes. He didn't say all votes from American citizens. He said all votes. Wait till all the votes are counted. And you can only count certifiable chain of custody votes from American citizens. Okay, so we don't want to have a replay of 2020. Changes have been made. I don't think enough changes have been made, but it's election officials in Pennsylvania, it's election officials in Maricopa County, it's election officials in Michigan that are saying right now, and I think some of those election officials are Democrats, some are Republicans, that this is going to be, that they don't think they're going to be able to give definitive numbers for a couple of days, but it doesn't mean President Trump can't go out there and explain to people exactly where this is, and I strongly advocate that he does. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, Mark Calvin, how you doing?
Bernie subscribes to the Harris campaign, and if we're just getting through the Democrats,
I think the Harris campaign, and I believe this comes from the anti-democratic forces inside of the Democratic Party. In shifting out when President Biden was taken off in 10 days off the ballot, it seemed to me at the time that they should have some sort of mini primary so that people like Governor Pritzker and Whitmer and Newsom and Shapiro, whoever else, wanted to jump in here and actually make the case in some sort of period of time up to the convention, can actually go and make a case of what they stand for. She started with this incoherent politics of joy. And she understands that you can't, she wasn't getting traction on this. And that's why she pivoted. She needed to take 1 or 2 at most topics like President Trump's Make America Great Again, or President Trump secure the border, or President Trump's bring jobs back from China. Take 1 or 2 things that resonate with this country and working class people and drive it every day. You haven't seen that. That's why now she's talking about people being fascists and people being this. I think right now, President Trump, just like in 16, right, we have a chance to win the states we won in 16, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, if the grassroots delivers. And I think maybe even throw in Nevada, which we didn't win in 16. I think President Trump could get up to over 300 electoral votes if people are focused today. And I think the Harris campaign it's not focused, and it's particularly not focused on issues that are obviously at the highest levels of the American people. So I think if the job of the grassroots is done, and this is why I'm not sure it's important for me to go to a rally with President Trump or go to a rally with other people, but to do the work that you need to have done to make sure those votes get out there, so that there's no question. Even if some things happen on ballot count, that we have gotten big enough margins that the votes that are remaining were bigger, we have bigger margins than the votes outstanding remaining.
So we're coming to the finish line, we're leading in the polls and we're doing well. But whatever you can do to help us out in terms of the MAGA movement is very important.
I think you know, as for people that align with progressive values, right? I think Vice President Harris has spoken to those values. I don't think she did it in a way that could broaden out to a general election, but clearly, she's Vice President of the United States. She's been a U.S. Senator, right? She clearly has strengths. She's proven that in the past. I don't think she's done it in this regard. And I think some of her strengths, you know, particularly in areas that she should have been in, like in sitting in the Situation Room and knowing this, when Bret Baier asked her a week ago, what is the number one geopolitical threat to the United States? What is the United States' number one competitor on the world stage? And she instantly said Iran. And Bret Baier tried to help her. He says, well, you know, some people say China. Hint, hint. She says, oh no, Iran. If you say that Iran is the number one, a regional power, is the number one threat to the United States of America, given what the Chinese Communist Party, which is a mortal enemy, not the Chinese people and not the nation of China, but the Chinese Communist Party, a mortal enemy of the United States. If you sit there and want to be commander-in-chief, and you say the number one threat when you have a chance to back off and say it's Iran, you're not ready to be commander-in-chief. And clearly you haven't learned anything or anything important in your 4 years as vice president sitting in the Situation Room. Anybody? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
The Conservatives in Europe view Donald Trump's potential presidency as a whole. I'd like to get your comment on that, and I'd like to emphasize the role of the
But remember, you have conservatives, then you have populists, and you have nationalists. I think the populist nationalist wing of those conservative parties, I don't think some of the classic conservatives, just like here in the United States, I think there's elements of the Republican Party that don't see President Trump as an answer. They vehemently disagree with us on tariffs. They vehemently disagree with us on things like the U.S. Steel takeover, things that a guy like Fetterman would back, right? So I think some of the classic conservatives don't see President Trump as somebody that represents a policy portfolio that would interest them, but I do think that the populists in this country do, and I do think the populist nationalists specifically do.
Okay, okay, thank you. So speaking of money in politics, New York City spends about...
What organization? Okay.
So speaking about the money in politics, New York City spends about $5 billion on illegal aliens. Do you think that was part of the reason why Madison Square Garden, which has 19,500 seats, had over 200,000 people clamoring to get in, and New Yorkers decked out and had their turn? Do you think it's a swing state like the big ones?
I think that you saw that when President Trump went to the Bronx, right? Remember, the elites in this country, the reason there are 10 or 15 million illegal alien migrants, illegal alien here in the United States, the Federal Reserve said this. And now the Congressional Budget Office is saying it, that they had to break the back of inflation, they had to drive down, they focused on wage inflation. And where did they focus on wage inflation? They didn't focus on the investment bankers, they didn't focus on the lawyers, and they didn't focus on the fat cats in Silicon Valley. They focused on unskilled labor here in the United States, and they were open about it. The Federal Reserve couldn't be more open about it. And that's what happened. Okay? Number one. Number two, they tell you now that you can't possibly report anybody that the GDP has 1% growth because you have another 10 million consumers. The people that are being destroyed by the 10 to 15 million illegal alien migrants are the working class African Americans and Hispanics who are voting for Donald Trump. These people are very smart, and they see their lived experience every day, whether it's in New York City or throughout other major cities of this country and other states, that their lived experience is worse. And their lived experience is worse because of policies of the powerful, the wealthy, and the strong. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thanks. Appreciate you.
Thanks, everyone. If everybody could get moving ASAP, we need the room back to do the 5 show.
So I know he's toughening up.
Engineering technology at ECPI University.
Manual labor is replaced by.
This is Lamar for 2300 Zulu, October 29th, 2024. Precedence is routine. Information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. Russia conducts large-scale nuclear weapons drill. Widespread election integrity issues continue throughout the United States. Beginning with international events, in Russia, this morning a large-scale test of Russian nuclear capabilities was conducted, with test launches from the sea, land, and air taking place simultaneously. An RS-24 Yars ICBM was test launched from the Plesetsk Cosmodrome, along with unidentified cruise missiles test launched from strategic bombers. 2 different submarine-launched ICBM tests were conducted as well. On the home front in the United States, election irregularities continue to grow nationwide. In Pennsylvania, prospective voters reported that at least one early voting polling place in Bucks County closed several hours early today. Also in Bucks County, unknown personnel have been observed using fake or deceptive badges, pretending to be poll workers or election officials, allegedly telling people to go home and that they cannot vote at voting sites. Analysts comment, per Pennsylvania law and the laws of most other states, polling places must remain open if there are voters in line to vote. No one can tell any citizen to go home for the day or try again when it's not too crowded. If you are in line when the polling place closes, you have the right to cast your ballot. In Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, the Board of Elections released a statement that approximately 2,500 voter registration applications are being investigated for fraud. These applications were dropped off at the elections office in 2 large batches a few days ago, all of which allegedly had the same handwriting patterns. In Fresno, California, a ballot drop box key was found to be left in the lock at a drop box by a voter dropping off their ballot, prompting security concerns. In Lane County, Oregon, a key to at least 2 USPS mail drop boxes was stolen, prompting authorities to urge voters who may have dropped off their mail-in ballots in the affected boxes to track their ballots online. In Georgia, this afternoon, an active shooter was reported at the Four Seasons Hotel in Atlanta. An unidentified man was observed to be randomly shooting from a balcony at the hotel. Analysts comment, though details are challenging to confirm, this was possibly more of a mental health crisis than a more calculated sniper attack. However, as the assailant's position offered line of sight to significant portions of downtown Atlanta, locals were urged to shelter in place while the crisis was ongoing. After a few hours, authorities gave the all clear after the suspect was in police custody. Analysts' comments for this wire. While comparatively rare to see a simultaneous combined arms test of Russia's nuclear triad, this likely follows the readiness drills that took place earlier this month, with the test being a more deliberate live fire test of various missile platforms. The timing of these ICBM tests is also likely intended to serve as a more direct message to the United States during a time of heightened tensions domestically. This concludes the wire for 2300 Zulu, October 29th, 2020.
Movie is really fun. It's ready.
What's this guy up to? What are you doing, bro? Where are you? Who is this? 8 months ago? The sleuth. The sleuth.
Because we provide answers to American people.
now,